Okay, welcome to today's live webinar, Intro to Online Shopping. My name is Rebecca Van Dusen, and I am a library associate here at the Champaign Public Library. If you've attended any tech workshops in person or, of course, virtually, you've probably seen me teaching or helping with those. I also work at the information desk at the library, so you may have seen me if you're in the library. So before I introduce our technology librarian, Susan Winkler, I'd like to mention some Zoom features. If you move your mouse near the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see some controls will pop up. So at the bottom left, you'll be able to adjust your audio settings, such as changing your speaker or microphone. When you move to the center bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat bubble there. If you click on that, that will let you type in questions to us. So while Susan is going over the handout for today and the slides, I will be in the background helping to answer questions and posing those to Susan when I think they're necessary. You'll also see a raise hand option that will let you ask a question using your speaker rather than typing it out. So feel free to raise your hand at any point. Basically, the main thing is if you have questions, don't feel afraid to ask. That's what we're here for. So yeah, type in your question or raise your hand. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Let's go ahead and welcome Susan Winkler, our technology librarian. How are you today, Susan?
Good. How are you, Rebecca?
I'm good.
Excellent. Yeah, well, thank you for that introduction. Today's workshop is Intro to Online Shopping. And most of what we'll cover today is going to relate to a couple of different things. Excuse me. We're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages to shopping online. We're going to talk about privacy and security. And hopefully you'll be able to get something out of this. Since we don't know where everyone is coming from when they're first joining us in this particular setting, we are going to start with some pretty introductory topics and concepts. So let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right, so I'm hoping you can see entered online shopping.
Yes.
And let me go ahead and do from beginning here. Excuse me. All right, so we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages to shopping online. We're going to talk a little bit about the types of sites and stores that are out there, how to shop safely and securely as much as we can in today's world. And then we'll talk a little bit about some search strategies and tips, and then some strategies and tips also for buying and how to pay for things. And then we'll talk about smartphone apps. The last time I taught this class, we still called it the new retail frontier. I don't think it's really the new retail frontier anymore. It is the retail frontier. And so we'll talk about some of the major apps that I know people are using to find the best deals, coupons, things like that. Okay, so any questions at the beginning before we get started?
I don't see anything yet, but I will actually go ahead and put into the chat our handout for today.
Perfect.
So this will be what Susan is covering. And if you click on that link, that will let you download the slides. And of course, afterwards, we will also send this out with a video recording.
Yes, yep, we'll send out that follow-up email that includes both things. So, all right. Okay, so some of the advantages and disadvantages, and some of these will be fairly obvious. And some of these you may not have considered. And if you haven't done any online shopping before, I think the current situation we're in of the pandemic has definitely broadened the desire and or need to do some online shopping, especially for things like possibly groceries and getting them delivered, or things involving curbside pickup where you would, instead of calling ahead, you'd go ahead and buy it online and then pick it up curbside. So there are some real advantages. I think convenience is probably the biggest one. You can, if you're shopping online, you can shop in your pajamas at 2 in the morning, 5 in the morning, midnight. So you don't have to rely on when a physical store is open. You also sometimes will find that you have a better selection opportunity. Sometimes things online will have better, not better sizing, but more possible sizes of things, or more colors, or just more options in general. Sometimes you can find more information about the product or the makers of a product online than you can in the store. So sometimes for things like department stores, their online site may give you more information about the product than what you would find in the store, including things like reviews of the items. A lot of stores will have, online stores will have reviews by customers right there in the page that includes that article of clothing or that, electronic piece of electronics. The price is sometimes better, sometimes not better. Sometimes it looks better on the surface because you're buying it online and it's cheaper than what you actually saw for the in-store price. But why I put parentheses around that is that sometimes you have to factor in the cost of shipping, or shipping to you, or shipping to the store for items, because some stores will actually build that cost into the online price once you add in shipping. So another advantage that I find is to be able to buy something online and then have it shipped to the store. So I could buy it online where there's a better selection and I can buy the color that I want, and then I can pick it up in the store. I can also buy it online, and perhaps once it comes to me and I try it on and it doesn't fit right, or it doesn't work quite right in the space that I wanted to put it, I can return it to the physical store. So it's good to pay attention to that as well. And we'll talk about that in more detail in a few minutes, about making sure that you're following and looking at the terms of use and the agreement that you're basically getting with an online service. Also, I find it to be an advantage if I shop online where I don't have to try to find parking at a store. I don't have to worry about driving there or taking a bus there, or, hauling all of my things that I've bought to my car, putting them in the trunk, or, getting them all home somehow if I buy it online and have it shipped directly to me. And also crowds. So especially for holiday time, when more people are out at the store shopping in general, shopping online can sometimes be a nice little break from being there in person. Okay, so some of the disadvantages of shopping online: you don't have the capability to inspect the product hands-on. And this is something where if you're like me, when I go to the grocery store, I'm inspecting what I'm grabbing before I'm grabbing it. So I can inspect the fruit that I buy, and make sure it looks good. I can actually check to make sure there are no loose, loose threads on an article of clothing. I can assess it before I buy it. There's also the idea of buyer beware. So some of the sites out there, where you're basically maybe thrift shopping, or it may be a sketchy site and you're not aware of that ahead of time, or you've purchased something and it never shows up, right? So sometimes that can happen. The cost of shipping can be a disadvantage because sometimes shipping is very expensive. The wait time, especially right now with issues with supply chains and things like that, wait time can be a big issue. So if you need something right away, it might be better to buy it in person because you don't have to wait for it to come through. Or for example, if you're buying decorations for your house for a certain at a certain time of the year, maybe it's easier to shop online in the off season, but a disadvantage might be that then you have to wait a long time to get it. The other disadvantage is privacy and security of your online accounts. And we don't have all the control that I think some of us would like to have over what a company does with our information when we shop with them online. Okay. Any questions about that?
I don't see any so far.
Okay, so that's just one of those. So there's just some of the things that I think about when I think about in-person versus online shopping. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the types of stores that are out there and the types of sites that go along with those stores. So for a lot of stores that are national chains, they do actually have the brick and mortar stores, and then they have the online sites. And a lot of those, like Best Buy, Target, Macy's, Walmart, we could name several. The advantage to having the online site is that you can order things all together online, have them shipped directly to you at your house or your home, or you can order them online and have them shipped to the store. And currently, a lot of them also do have curbside pickup where you can just drive up in your car or walk up and they'll bring the product out to you. So you basically buy it online, you pick it up in store, or you ship it to you. There's some examples for this locally too. If you think of places like Champaign Outdoors, used to be Champaign Surplus. It's a local store, which does not, it's not a national chain, but they have the same sort of philosophy where you could buy something online and then come to the store to get it. Same with, for example, Country Arbors. There's probably several other companies that you know of that are local that also have an online presence where you can buy stuff through the website and then pick it up in person or have it shipped to you. Okay, so it's an example of a couple of them. Some other brick and mortar, this is especially true right now. I think during the pandemic, we've definitely seen an increase in the desire for groceries to be delivered to you directly. So most of our local grocery stores that are also local to Champaign or national or regional have all started to offer the online grocery shopping option where you can do either curbside pickup or have it delivered to you at your house, which is really nice. And I think for a lot of folks, I think this is something that's going to stay. I think this will be something where folks will start to take, even post our current situation. I'm hoping it'll stay because I think it's kind of nice sometimes when you're to be able to have it delivered. Okay. Some places are entirely or primarily online. I shouldn't say entirely online because of course Amazon now has a couple of storefronts, physical storefronts. But in general, these are some examples of online sites where they have distribution centers or warehouses, but not a physical store that you could go into and browse products. So you browse the products online and then you have them shipped to you. And again, one of those things that is a disadvantage too is sometimes for me, especially, it's hard for me to think in spatial terms of how big something is and whether or not it's going to fit where I want it to fit unless I actually physically measure the space. So that is one thing that I do get from browsing in a store. Like if I'm going to buy a new piece of furniture, going into an actual furniture store and seeing how big the couch is rather than relying on the descriptive measurements that are online, give me a better sense of how big it is and whether or not it's going to fit in the space I want to put it. So here are a couple examples of some warehouse. Basically, they're like big box stores that are not actually stores. They're online big box stores. Okay. Okay. You also have an increase recently in sites that do sharing and rental services. So I've put some examples here. If you haven't heard of Airbnb, or I think it's Vibro is how they pronounce it, or Verbo. These are essentially places where people can list their apartments or their homes and then have someone come and rent it for a week or a weekend. And then basically just, you pay the company and then there is a rental agreement that you sign and everything. And then the company is standing by and backing up what the quality of the service, basically. If you think of Uber and Lyft, those are primarily apps, but they are designed again for like ride sharing services. And then Rent the Runway is one where you basically can rent designer outfits for, say there's a wedding coming up and you want a designer dress. You can go on to Rent the Runway and pick something and then have it shipped to you, rent it, and then send it back. You can also do this with, like camera lenses. There's lots of different rental sites out there too. Okay, online marketplaces like Etsy, where everyone can sell products that they've made themselves, or even now it's also other things that they've got. ThredUp is consignment clothing, same with The RealReal. These are ones basically like instead of going into a physical thrift shop in town or a secondhand store, you could go online and see if you can find something there that you might like instead. There's also online auction sites like eBay and things like that for collectors, people who are looking for something that they've, it's not just for collectors, of course. You can find just about anything in there that you would want to bid on. Okay, classified ads. Again, this kind of goes along with the auction sites and the consignment shops would be Craigslist, OfferUp, and Facebook Marketplace, a chance for people to basically sell and buy through the internet. And I do want to mention too that with Craigslist and OfferUp and Facebook Marketplace, if you want to meet someone in person to pick up or exchange the money for the goods, the local police department here, the Champaign Police Department, recommends that you meet at a public space or public place, and they even suggest you could meet at the police station because they do have security cameras around the building, and it's well lit in their parking lot. So that's an example too, because again, if we talk about safety and security, it doesn't go just with the online environment, but also if you're going to meet someone in person that you've made a deal with online to buy something from them or sell something to them. Okay. There's also sites that do things like personal shoppers. Stitch Fix, excuse me, is one of the ones that I most frequently think of with this option, where basically you pay for a subscription and then you have a personal stylist that will send you different things that they think you might like. If you end up keeping it, then you pay for the cost of that item. If you don't end up keeping it and you send it back to the company, then you don't get charged for the stuff you send back. So any questions about the types of stores and sites that are out there? There are probably several more too. This was just kind of a quick overview to get an idea of the types of sites that you could possibly shop at for an intro to shopping class, intro to online shopping class, that is.
I don't see any questions so far.
Okay, so after that overview, let's talk a little bit about the safety and security issues that you might consider when you're going to shop online. So for me, I personally have a separate email account that I use for when I shop online. And I have a folder for all of the confirmations and receipts so that I can keep track of them, and I keep them in a separate place. That way, in case there's an issue or I do end up needing to return something, I have the documentation that I need, that I possibly have to present at a physical store, or that I have to send along with it when I ship something back. Okay, something to think about. And this is in general as a privacy and security thing that I do. If your browser auto-fills passwords and or email addresses for you, you might consider no longer having the browser do that for you, especially if you share your computer with others in your house, or if you use public computer stations to do any of this stuff. Okay, signing out of sites after purchases. If you do create an account on a site, it's a very good idea to sign out after you're done. I know there have been a few instances where someone did not sign out, and another person went onto that computer and ordered some stuff as if they were the first person. So it's good to sign out so that people are not going to be able to use your account for things. If you get the option to not store payment information on a store's website, it's one more piece of information that's floating around that's out there if you agree to store it there. I generally, and this is, of course, these are all things you can think about, things you can decide to do or not do, of course. They're suggestions, but again, that's all they are. Okay, so you can think about maybe not storing payment information on a store's website. You will want to possibly vet the site before you buy. If you're unfamiliar with the company's information ahead of time, I do an online search for that company. I find out, the company's information, the profile of, where are they based? What country are they based out of? If I can find online reviews of how people thought the customer service was, if they've been rated with the Better Business Bureau, ask around, see if you get some word of mouth from people. Does it look sketchy? Does the site, even when you pull up the site or the information about the site, does it just look too good to be true? Because it's likely that it is too good to be true if it looks like it's too good to be true. Okay, so these are some things to think about. When you think about, and this is a quick demo of when you're thinking about keeping things that won't autofill. This also is helpful too if you have addresses saved in your browser, so that if you're actually sending, say you're giving someone a gift and you're sending it to their address instead, but your browser goes ahead and tries to autofill with your stuff first, you want to make sure you're paying close attention to that. So otherwise you just say, offer to, not save passwords, not save usernames, not do the autofill. In Chrome, you can go into the 3 dots in the upper right corner and then go into your settings. In all the browsers, if you go into your settings, you should be able to find the places where it says autofill and auto sign in, and change that around if you want to. Okay. Something else to consider, like we said, if you create an account with a store, pay attention to down at the bottom and whether or not they've got places for you to check mark, keeping you signed in, and to email you about their services and coupons and things like that, and whether or not you really want those special offers. A lot of times those are defaulted to check. They default to having everything check marked. So you want to make sure you can go in there and uncheck those things that you don't want. So the terms of use and privacy policy, and I know not many of us spend the time to go through and actually, scroll through an entire terms of use or privacy policy for things. But it is a good idea to go through and skim it a little bit, or at least when you're vetting the company, see what other people have said about their terms of use and privacy policy, because you do want to know what they're doing with your data. Okay. And then, like we said, make sure you sign out of the store sites after purchases. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find where that is. Usually it's going to be up near wherever the cart icon is for your actual online cart. Something else to consider, and this isn't actually in the slide, but cookies. If you know what cookies are essentially little pieces of basically information that sites use to make the experience better for you. And a lot of times those cookies include remembering your cart. So if you put some stuff in a cart at an online shop, and then you navigate away from that page and you come back to it, sometimes cookies are what help to keep that there. But you can also clear them out and you can clear them regularly to help keep things from getting too bogged down, and also to help clear your information from being places. Okay. If you can, not saving that payment information on a website. And we just used grabbed screenshots from Walmart for this example, but it could be any store online, Target, Macy's, whatever place you're going to, because we're not prefacing one online store over another, but just making sure that, when you fill in and it says, you haven't saved a payment method to your account, you can, that is an option. If possible, I usually choose not to have that information saved. And some sites now will have extra security measures where if you have a saved account and saved your credit card information, they will ask you to put in like the security code on the back of the card, the 3-digit code, in order to confirm and verify your card even after you've signed in, which is an extra step for protection. But if possible, I'd rather just put it all in every time myself, because the less of that's out there, the better for me. Okay. Probably the most important thing to consider when shopping online is making sure that you're shopping at a secure site. So if you see up here at the top where it says HTTPS, that S stands for secure. And what this means is that when your data, whenever you put something in, it's actually being encrypted when it's sent to the site. Okay, and that's very important if you're going to be entering credit card information, personal information of any kind. It's very important to be on a secure site. Most modern browsers like Chrome and Firefox and Safari, they will identify whether or not a site is secure for you at the beginning, and show you the little lock here or tell you that it's not secure. Okay. And if it's not secure, then I would think strongly about whether or not I want to purchase something through that website. You also want to think about your internet connection. If your internet connection is not secure, meaning, for example, you're on a public Wi-Fi network where there's no password and there's no, security measures in place, that is going to be accepting more of a risk when you are shopping online than if you are, say, using your home Wi-Fi network where you are password protected and you know who uses the Wi-Fi network. Okay, so okay. Realize I probably should have had a question slide in between these. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll move on to paying a little bit more attention to what you can do with something. Okay, and feel free if you have questions over that section, let me know. All right, so when we talk about reading privacy and return policies, you also could see what data or information does the site give to someone else, because a lot of times there are partner sites too. And for example, a partner site might get your email address from that first site that you shop at, and then you'd be getting emails from that other company, just like you would magazines. If you get magazines or like catalogs from different companies, they may give your name and address to another catalog that will come to you too. So keep that in mind as well. If you can return something to a local store, if you've bought it online, are they requiring you to ship it back to a central distribution warehouse, or can you take it to the local store? For example, Kohl's, you can take it to the local store. I think Eddie Bauer works that way too, where if you buy it online, you can take it to the local Eddie Bauer shop to return it. Okay. Make sure your antivirus software is up to date. Make sure you've done all the updates to your computer, your operating system, and everything else. You have to be to shop savvy and be cyber aware. You want to make sure that you are also vetting what you're doing. So if it seems too good to be true, if an ad seems too good to be true, it probably is. There are some scams out there. There are suspicious sites. And especially if you're going to be entering any financial information, again, that's the time when you should vet that site before you enter any financial information. Okay. And then another example of printing, what I do, like printing the invoices or the receipts or the emailed confirmations, just so you have those records in case you do have to follow up or report something if it never arrives or you have to return it. Okay. Excuse me. Then there's what kind of payment you want to use. If you choose to use a credit card, can you check with your credit card company to see if they have identity theft protection policies in place? Can you set alerts for certain dollar amounts? So you get a text message or an email, if you've spent more than $100 or more than $500 or something. And that gives you a chance to maybe intercept something before, if someone has gotten a hold of your information. If you choose an online payment service like PayPal or Google Pay Send, which is a newer, that used to be called Google Wallet. These are services that kind of act as third parties to help you with paying for stuff online. I would research the companies first. How is the data collected? Ask about, what is the activation or monthly fees? Is there a minimum account balance required that you have to keep with PayPal or Google Pay Send in order to still use the service? Okay. And if you choose to use gift cards, because sometimes for me, I know I prefer to use a gift card when I'm shopping online, and then I don't have to have it linked to a specific credit card or anything for me. You check with the issuing company for expiration dates and activation fees. If it's a gift card for a specific store, or if it's, one of those debit cards that could work online for any store, and certain stores will take, certain online companies would take them and certain online companies won't. So it's good to find that out ahead of time. Okay. Okay. I'm going to take a moment and pause here too and ask if there are any questions about the stuff we've just covered.
Yeah, we do have a question.
Okay.
So someone is asking if you have a VPN, is public Wi-Fi okay?
It's really up to you. The way I describe VPNs is it's a little bit like the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. So what happens with a VPN is essentially that it's like you create that tunnel where the Roadrunner can paint on the side of it and it looks like the tunnel, and the Roadrunner can go into the tunnel, but the Wile E. Coyote gets stopped. Okay. So I mean, if you have I would recommend, I mean, in general, a VPN, which stands for virtual private network, is generally a good idea, especially as more people move toward using their phones and mobile data and free Wi-Fi and unsecure Wi-Fi networks, especially. I would say if you're going to get on an unsecure Wi-Fi network, it gives you one extra step of protection. And of course, we all assume a certain amount of risk no matter what we're doing, but knowing that you're minimizing the risk a little bit is can be helpful. So I would still, if I have the option to have a protected network where it's got a password and I know who's using it, I will use that instead of a public Wi-Fi network. So if you have the option, I would say if you don't have the option for a secure Wi-Fi network to start with, then at least a VPN is one step up from that for protection, if that helps answer the question. So yeah, so it's not,
Yes, they say
and
thank you.
nothing's 100% too, especially with as soon as new technology comes out, like for example the everybody using a fingerprint to get into a device, right? As soon as that technology comes out as a method of and level of security, someone else is going to try to find a way around it, right? So nothing's 100%, but if you can do some steps to help minimize the risk, it's better than nothing. So, okay, great question. Okay, so now we get into the fun part for me as a librarian, which is helping people with searching, of course. So some of the suggestions I have, if you're searching for specific products, is going to be using, and you can use consumer reports through the library. If you have a Champaign card, you can use it from home. Otherwise, you can come into the building and use it here in the library. And our staff can even help by printing out the ratings and reviews through consumer reports if you'd like that. So if you're searching for a specific product, say a new washer and dryer, for example, you can use consumer reports to help you determine which one is best suited for what you want and has the best ratings. Amazon, a lot of the reviews on Amazon, if you look at kind of take them all together for product reviews, it's not a bad place to start. Again, I go to consumer reports usually because they're a third party, kind of more unbiased source, where sometimes if you've heard of it, you have something called review bombing, which is essentially, it happens a lot with websites for things like movies, where people will go in and deliberately try to bring down the stars that something has gotten. You don't see that as much with products, but it's possible. And you can still have folks go in there and writing reviews of products that they didn't really test, or trying to review something to give it a positive review because they have some sort of stake in the company or things like that. So I prefer to use consumer reports first. You can also go to the direct company website. So for example, if we were searching for a washer and dryer and we saw one from GE, for example, we could go to the company website for GE and see if it's listed there, and then see what we can find about that from reviews that they've put on their site too. And then for pricing, this is always good for product reviews. It's also good for pricing, to do browser-based shopping searches for certain products. And I'm just going to do a live demo of this in just a moment too, to give you kind of an idea of how I would go about it. Okay.
We do have a question about consumer reports.
Sure. Yes.
Someone says they get consumer reports at home, but they have to pay extra to get some kinds of ratings. Does the library have that extra info available to patrons?
Yeah. So I was actually going to do a quick demo with consumer reports. So let me stop sharing here and I will jump into my screen where I have consumer reports pulled up so we can all see it. So through the library, consumer reports, if you go to champaign.org/consumer-reports, that will take you right to our page listing for it. If you tap where it says use consumer reports, I'm hoping you can see this, right, Rebecca? I didn't ask that though.
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
good. Okay. And then go here to consumerreports.org. And since I'm in the library, it's not actually asking me for my PIN number and library card. If I was outside the library, it would ask for the Champaign card number and PIN. And then once you're here, so if we were going to do the washing machine, for example, go ahead and hit washing machines, and then we can look at the different reviews. So I'm not positive if we have the same access that you would have through a home subscription. You might have to bring it in and check and kind of take a look here to see. But I do know that in most cases with this, we do have the recommended. So it will give us a recommended report and the ratings for those. And you can also put them together and compare them side by side. If you jump into the individual record here too, you can also see the test results and the ratings, the advantages, disadvantages, like what's good about it, what's not good about it, the consumer reports take on it, and then also owner satisfaction. And then they also have a section at the bottom for user reviews, which is nice because then you can see what other people have said. Sometimes a review is going to be, customer service wasn't great. The machine itself was fine. So you also have to kind of look at whether or not it's the product or the place where they bought it. Because if they buy it from, say, Best Buy versus Sears versus whatever, it might be that the customer service for that particular store isn't great as opposed to the product itself. So, I don't know. Is this for the person who asked that? Is this what you kind of get with the subscription? If not, there's also at the very bottom down here, we actually do have the current access to the current issue of the magazine itself, the printed version. So if we tap on current issue, let's see. Oh, maybe not anymore. I'm going to check on that because I think we should have access to the current issue in PDF form. So I'll check with our folks on that. But you should have the index and the digital archive too. So we'll check on that as well. We do also have access to in the library to the print version of the magazine as well. So you could always come in, and we have the ratings and review, the yearly rating and review guide too here in print. And you can always email us, and we can scan pages of that and send it to you too. Okay, so I'm hoping that kind of gives you an idea. They also do have some articles about things like credit cards and some of the financial guides and things, which are pretty nice too. Okay, so I'm hoping that sort of answered the question.
I think it
It
did.
Okay, let me know if it didn't. And you can also take a look here in person too. Okay, so go ahead and head back here. Share my screen again. Okay, so yeah, so I do recommend consumer reports. Check out from the library. I mean, you can access it with your library card and PIN number, or come on in and look at it. And again, the browser, oh, I was going to show the browser-based shopping search. Okay, let me jump out of here one more second. And I'm going to share a regular screen here. Okay, so let me come over here to a new one. So what I mean by browser-based shopping search is, let's say we were looking for a specific, like we were doing washing machines. So let's say it was a Kenmore washing machine. Now this is just a regular Google search that I've just done for the Kenmore washing machine. And you'll see here, of course, Kenmore has their own site where I could then browse the different Kenmore washing machines and find one that was of interest to me. For example, let's say this one. And then if I have the information with the item number and the model number, I can then compare that across the different shopping sites to see who is going to give me the best deal on it, what they have for reviews on it, all of that kind of stuff. So for example, let's go ahead and take this. And usually the item number is going to be, because it's the color as well as the model number, which is going to be specific. So let's do the model. And let's go back 1 second. And I'm going to go back to the Kenmore washing machine and add that model information here. And then you can see we've got, okay, here's from Kenmore specifically. And then here's the listing on Amazon. So we could check Amazon, we could check Sears, we could check to see if we have it at perhaps our local Sears or our local Best Buy. And we can also check a Google Shopping specifically here. And Google Shopping here will show us some other locations. Now we have to pay attention to whether or not these are actually the specific one that we're looking for. So we want to make sure it's the Kenmore. And then here's where you definitely want to check and make sure that it matches, that model number. But you can definitely search for it and see if you can find it and who's got the best deal on it. And in a lot of sense with electronics too, you can check and see if who has the best protection plan for if something goes wrong with it. Okay, so that's what I mean by the browser-based search. So we could do this with Bing instead of Google. We could do it with DuckDuckGo. Could do it with any browser and any search engine if you wanted. Okay. Okay. So just want to make sure I showed that. And then let me come back over here and we'll jump back into our PowerPoint. Okay. Once you're on a store site, I'm hoping you can see this now again
Yes.
in the PowerPoint. Once you're on a specific site, then it's all about basically using the keyword searching that you can at the top of the page or wherever their search function is. And anywhere where you see that magnifying glass, as long as it doesn't have a plus or minus in it, is going to be to search. If it has a plus or a minus, it means zoom in or zoom out. Okay, but as long as it does, it's just a magnifying glass, that's a search. And you can search for whatever you want. And then the nice thing is you can also usually limit your searches and you can sort them. So here, if you look at this screenshot, we could refine by the price. So if we wanted to make sure we were spending, less than $50 on a transformer, we could put in a price range. And we can also limit by the store availability. So there's nothing wrong with looking at a store's online selection and then seeing if it matches what they say they have in the store that's closest to you as well. So give me 1 second. So I could easily say, okay, I'm going to call my local store and see if this is there. A lot of sites now will also let you know immediately, and it'll say, available at Champaign location or available in 2 days because they'll ship it from another store so that you can have it. So I'm going to go ahead and share and we'll do an active search. Does anybody have something they want me to try to search for? Using our terms here and things like that, we could search, let's search, for example, we'll search Walmart. I'm going to go ahead and just search Transform Megatron. And then if you have something that you'd like me to try instead, let me know. Okay. But so for example, we can already see that there's a whole bunch of different filters we can pick from. So we can pick whether or not we want it to be available for pickup, that we can pick it up curbside, we can get it delivered to us at our house, or we can get it shipped to us in a box. Okay. We can also, again, limit by price. So if I want to say, $50, I can also brands in here. So, if you want Transformers, and sometimes, like there's a Lego a transformer. And so it's not just Hasbro, but it's Lego, or, so sometimes you'll want to make sure you find that. You can also search departments. So maybe I didn't want a transformer action figure. I wanted clothing. And so I could say clothes or t-shirt, or I could pick a department here and pick clothing. Okay. And then over here, we've got sort by, and right now it's best match, but you could also do price. And this thing that says bestseller is interesting, because sometimes what happens is that these online sites, like that are for the bigger stores, they will include sellers that are selling items that are either secondhand. You'll see this a lot with Amazon too. So you want to make sure that what you're looking at is something that's either actually sold by that company, or if it's sold by someone else, that they let you know that it's sold by someone else. So for example, since Transformers are collectibles too, it may not be coming directly from Walmart. So let's see here. Shipping options, registry, protect purchase. So you can also do purchase plans. Those are usually if you're going to do stuff with electronics. And let's see. And this one also considered. And here's where I would say, okay, about this item, the product details. Okay. Product information, suppliers and others. And so specific brand. So that doesn't tell me for sure that it's being shipped by Walmart. It might be shipped by a third party. So those are other things to keep in mind. Okay. Any questions about when you're actually searching for stuff?
Someone is asking, how can I tell if something isn't new?
Do you mean isn't new as far as on a site, or? Might need a little bit more information.
My guess is they haven't responded, but my guess is yes. Okay. Someone says they thought you said refurbished.
Oh, yes, exactly. So Best Buy is a good example of that. Let me jump into. So Best Buy sells a lot of stuff that's been refurbished. For example, especially with laptops. So let's try Surface Book. Okay. And usually it should tell you. So for example, if I'm looking here, we see this one right here says Geek Squad certified refurbished Surface Book 2. Okay, so that means that the Geek Squad has basically someone returned it. Geek Squad looked at it, they did what they needed to do, and now they're selling it, but it's refurbished. Okay, so it will be a little bit. Usually, it'll be a little bit cheaper than the new cost of a new item. So is that kind of?
Sometimes you do have to be careful with the refurbished stuff though, because it might not fall under like specific warranties or protections that you might get with a newer item.
Exactly. So for example, you want to take a quick look at this and you want to look at it and go, okay, what is the return policy for something in this? What are they offering me? What kind of service plans can I get? What other stuff can they do? And again, that goes back to reading the terms of use, the privacy, questions and answers, all those things about these different products before you purchase them too. So yes, Rebecca, that's an excellent point. Okay. If it's something like you're shopping, say for clothing, there are, like Thread is one of the companies that does consignment and thrift store. So the understanding is that everything is already like new, but has had a previous owner. And you can also sell things as well as shop for things and buy things. And you can get, if you sell something, you get store credit that then you basically online store credit that you can then use towards something else. So it is good to look and check. Sometimes folks they'll have like a standard of, like if you were to go into a thrift store and you'd look at it and you could assess where you don't necessarily have that if you're in the online environment, that they'll give you a rating system. Yep, that kind of helps. So, but you might also say, yeah, so if you're looking for example, like we said, washer, let's do, you can also sometimes tell, especially with consumer reports, they'll tell you when it was first on the market too, and how long something has been on the market. You can always check on the view product details to see if it'll tell you how long the model has been available too. Sometimes you can tell based on the reviews as well. If I look at this review, let's see, let's go all reviews here. And so this one goes back to 2017. So you know that this model has at least been on the market since 2017. Looks like 2016. So at least since 2016. Okay. So that also kind of gives you an idea of how long it's been around too. So, and of course, the longer something has been available, the more likely it is to have more reviews. Okay. Hope that helps too. Okay. I'm going to jump back here. Other questions about reviews and searching?
I don't see anything so far.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the, whoops, hold on 1 second. There we go. Had to wait for it to catch up. All right, one moment. I'm gonna come back down here. Some other search strategies and tips. Let's see if it'll do it. Yep. Okay. You can also, definitely take advantage of the departments, searching specific departments. Like we said, if you want clothing with a transformer on it instead of the actual action figures, you can narrow your search down. You can also filter, of course, and sort by lowest price to highest price, or use the filter range. Sometimes you can sort by color, especially if you're looking for clothing. And then, for your sizing too. So a lot of times you can do sizing and you can do brands, just as an example. And then here, just as an example for going through things, generally speaking, when you're shopping online, they will have a little cart symbol, which will be your cart. So as you add things to your cart, you can go over here and click on it and check and see what you have in your cart before you purchase it. Something else I want to point out about carts, the account information is usually a little person. So if you have an account where you've saved or stored something, like your information, your address, whatever, you can usually find that. Store locations is a great thing to match to some of these national stores. Because again, that will help it search and tell you whether or not it's available at something is available at your local store. Okay. The other thing I want to mention, a lot of times there's an ad up at the top, and you won't necessarily know it's an ad. Sometimes they're pretty identifiable, sometimes they aren't. So just be on the lookout for those. You don't necessarily know shipping costs until you get to the point where you're going to check out. And then sometimes it'll tell you estimated shipping, and it'll ask you to put in your zip code. So it can give you an estimate on your shipping and how much shipping would cost, and also local sales tax, because now there are a number of sites that have to charge local sales tax too. Okay. All right. You can also usually save something for later too. If you want to watch the price of something, you can save it in your cart, and then sometimes some sites will actually send you an email when the price has decreased. And then you can, if they're saved in your cart, they'll send you that email to tell you, oh, the price has dropped on this item you were looking at. Again, that's where cookies come in and play a little bit, because that's what's keeping those kind of helping track what you've put in the cart and saved for later. So the other thing I want to point out too, if you look at this right here, oh, I wonder why that happened. Anyway, your items that are in your cart and the quantity of each item. Sometimes what I do when I shop is I go ahead and pick something and put it in my cart, and I pick all the colors too, because then I go back into my cart and I delete out the ones that I decide I don't want. If you do that, you want to make sure you pay attention to the quantity of each item, because sometimes if you hit it twice, it's going to bump you up to 2 when you only meant to hit 1. Okay, so just keep that in mind too. You can always remove items from the cart, and you can do that save for later, where if you say, oh, you know what, actually, I don't want to purchase it right now, but I kind of want to keep an eye on it, see if it comes down in price, or see if they, they continue to have my size, and I'll save it for later. Okay. Okay. Any questions about that, about with the carts and shopping carts?
So someone is saying save for later. Do they have to have an account to have that saved?
So usually when you do save for later, that is when you have an actual a specific account with that site, and then you basically save it for later in your cart. Yeah, so with those, you would want to have an actual account. If you check out as a guest, usually at that point, that's when as soon as you navigate away from the site, so if you closed out of the site and you weren't logged in to your account, then it would erase that from its record. Yeah. So yeah, usually that one you do have to have an actual account, which usually for most websites is an email address and a password. And then once you start buying stuff, then they ask you to put in the credit card information and the address and everything else for shipping. So you can, in theory, create an account and never buy something, but just put stuff in the cart to kind of see if it ever comes down in price. Good question. Okay, so some different ways to check out and pay for things. Depends entirely on the site that you're at. Obviously credit cards, and we talked a little bit about safety and security with credit cards, making sure you have alerts on your cards if you can, and the identity theft protection there, and that you check your statements regularly. PayPal, if everyone's heard of PayPal, maybe not everyone yet, and Google Pay Send are basically ways for you to put money into an account and then pay on the website directly from that account. So instead of having to use a credit card, you could put money into your PayPal account and then pay with PayPal. Okay. Gift cards, of course, coupons, rewards. A lot of sites will reward you for using a credit card at their site, and then you have credit card rewards, and then you can go and pay for stuff using the reward points that you get. And a lot of sites will offer coupons, and I'm gonna, in a few minutes, like a couple slides from now, we'll talk a little bit about some coupon apps too. Rakuten is is a fairly well-known, nowadays at least, it's a fairly well-known site for rewards where you basically get cash back if you check out from websites using them. So, okay, questions about that? So it's really, there's lots of different payment methods that you could use depending on what you want. The biggest thing is that cash isn't really a payment option for most websites where you're purchasing and doing online shopping. Whereas something like with Craigslist, you could say, sure, I'll, meet me here and I'll give you $20 cash for whatever the product is. But most of the other sites don't have a way to process cash. Okay. Okay. So smartphone apps, what I had also titled is the new retail frontier, which it's no longer new, it's here. It's here. Because honestly, most of us have cell phones, and we're usually walking around with our cell phones when we're shopping. So a couple of the apps to be aware of. Excuse me. To find the best price on something, you can actually use a barcode scanner on your phone using your phone's camera, and you put it up to the barcode on whatever the item is, and it will tell you, based on if you've enabled location, it'll tell you what different prices are nearby for you. Two of those possible options are Shop Savvy and Buy Via. And again, the library is not endorsing anything specific. These are just some examples. There are lots of other examples that are out there. I do encourage you to take the time to search for some of these kinds of apps. research them, take a look at the developers, vet them as you will. Okay. So there are also location-based apps, which basically use something called NFC, or near field communication, which basically means when you walk into a specific store, excuse me, if you've accepted the terms, that store then sends a message to your phone, which pops up with either possibly a coupon or an ad or the current deal that might be going on in the store. So maybe it's a, buy two, get one free, and it'll pop up on your phone and tell you, buy two of this, get one free. This is something we haven't seen a whole lot of yet, but I think it is going to be something that's going to happen more in the future too. There are a couple of stores that are already implementing this, but I don't know that a whole lot of national chains are doing it yet. But it is something to be aware of. So stores might have specific store coupons that come in their apps. For example, Michael's and Joanne Fabrics and Target and Walmart and places like that, that have a specific app where you can basically browse for anything on the app. You can shop via the app, and then you can also get coupons via the app. Okay. There's also savings and rewards apps like Retail Me Not, Ibotta, and Honey is actually a browser extension. So it's actually an extension you would put. So basically extensions are basically like pieces of software or programs that you add to your browser. And then they will pop up and help you. In this case, it tells you what the best price is for things as well. Okay, so some discounts or credits for purchases. Poshmark, Wish, and Zulily, I can't even say it right, I'm sorry, Zulily, are also apps and websites that also do discounts, and then you can get credit with the store for selling stuff with them. Okay. Any questions about the smartphone apps? And again, this is just the tip of the shopping iceberg, as it were, for all the different kinds of apps that are out there that developers have made to help people get the best deal on a product.
I think we're okay so far.
Okay, well then I'm just going to go ahead and bring up a couple additional resources here. I don't want to take too much more time too. This one should be about an hour. So the Better Business Bureau does rate and take complaints if there are consumer complaints for different organizations, and that does include many of the online sites as well. Safety and security tips, if you go to staysafeonline.org, they have some good safety tips for online shopping. And then Tech Boomers also has a good buying and selling guide for things like buying and selling on Etsy or buying and selling on eBay, for example. So I do recommend, if you want to, you can take a closer look at those. And then our upcoming workshops, the next 2 weeks, we're going to have, Rebecca will be doing our e-library resources, which are books and movies and music, magazines, all the things that you can get on your tablets or smartphones through Libby or Hoopla or Canopy. And then at the end of the month, we're going to have our Getting Started with the Internet program, and that's two sessions. So part 1 will be on the 30th, and then part 2 will be the first week of December. And we'll talk in a lot more detail about safety and security, and privacy when you're shopping on the internet or doing anything else on the internet. And it's a very useful, I think, a very useful 2-part series. So, okay. One more slide here. This is my email address and my phone number if you want to contact me directly. Rebecca can also put hers in the chat if she'd like. You can also reach out to us at librarian@champaign.org if you have questions you'd like us to answer. Again, if you want us to look something up for you in Consumer Reports and print it out or send it to you, we can also do that. And then we also have a YouTube channel where all of the recordings for these webinars live. And that is, if you go to champaign.org/YouTube, that's our landing page for the library. And then you'll click on the link and it'll take you to all of the tech workshop videos or Crafty Adults videos or career resources, story times, all of those are up there for you to watch at your leisure. And then we also have our Book a Librarian program where you can contact us to set up a one-on-one consultation with you. You can also contact us via live chat when the library is open and through the email address. Okay, and that's everything I have. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that and come back. And then again, if you have any other questions, please feel free, reach out. Go ahead and place them in the chat if you like, or raise your hand. We can unmute you and you can ask your question out loud too.
Okay, we do have a question.
Sure.
Someone says, you said there were other apps that would compare prices locally and do a search to find them. I wondered what was the term on which to search?
Yeah, so those would be basically like Shop Savvy and I already forgot what the other one was. They're apps that basically when you're in a store and you pick up an item, if you scan the UPC barcode on them, it'll give you a list of options of where else it's being sold. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're looking for other ones, usually what I end up searching for is I actually do searches online first, and I will search for, and I can even do it right now to give you kind of an example. So for example, if I'm here and I'm just going to go for, let's see, apps to find best prices shopping, something like that, and then see what comes up. So for example, here's from PC Magazine, and I do really like, I do refer to PC Magazine a lot. So this is one where I might be like, all right, let's see, what do they list? So here's Shop Savvy, and then Buy Via, which was the other one that I mentioned, and then price.com, which is available on iOS, which means it's available for Apple. My cart savings. So this tells you and then there's stuff that pops up. Tells you it's available for Apple devices and Android devices. And Apple track the price of an item, alert you when it reaches the amount you're willing to pay. And then Amazon, of course, tracks things as well. So I would start with things like this that are kind of these general searches, and then it gives you a chance to kind of get a brief description. So in here, it would be, you're scanning the UPC barcode with your phone camera to search for items and see how much they are in the store and online. And that's for major stores. Let's jump back here. So here from Make Use Of is price comparison. So you might search, and then I would search. So since I made a longer search this time, and I see that one comes up and it says price comparison. So maybe then I would do a search that says, apps for, helps if my hands are on the right keys, apps for price. I'm going to go ahead and take off my caps lock there too. So, and then I might put in apps for price comparison and see what comes up here. And then take a look and see, maybe life hack, take a look at some of the, here again is PC Magazine, shopping apps to compare prices. Looks like that one's in India. So they may not be apps that are available in the United States. And let's see, groups. So Forbes, you might trust Forbes. So let's check out what Make Use Of says. So there again, Shop Savvy, QR reader. Okay. Buy Via. And you'll start to get a sense of the ones that keep appearing often. So like Shop Savvy and Buy Via seem to appear in quite a few of these. And then just like I've done with other, when we talk about apps in general, I go into the App Store, I look at the reviews of the apps themselves, and do a little bit of research on them before I download the apps too. Okay, I'm hoping that answers it.
Yes, I think you answered their question.
Okay, perfect. Okay, other questions? I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen again. So, and again, this is just sort of an overview of the world of online shopping. There's several other, of course, several other national sites, local businesses that have websites and apps and other things that you can do to search and look. And in that beginning internet class, we'll take an example and we'll follow it all the way through of a product that we're looking for too. So,
Yeah, I usually, if I'm going somewhere, I'll see if they have like an app, because you may also get like coupons and stuff through the app. Like say if I'm going to Joann's and I want to get something, I'll check on their app and see if they have any coupons. And that way when I go, you know, maybe I'll get like a 20% off or 50% off or something.
Yeah, I love it, honestly, with that, because I always have my cell phone with me. And I used to be a person who, if I had clipped out a coupon, unless I actually put it in my purse and then remembered that I had it, I wouldn't remember to use it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's nice to have my phone with me because I'm just like, oh yeah, I have the app. You know, okay, 40% off or whatever. And I think it's all, since it's all in one device, it's a lot easier to have it already sorted by whichever place you're going, whatever, you know. And then it's even better because if you happen to go there because the other store didn't have what you want, go into the other store and you're like, oh yeah, and I have their app too, you know. So yeah, I think Bed Bath and Beyond has an app.
Oh
they
yeah,
also have coupons.
They
and
constantly send out coupons.
yeah. You know, so it's worth you know, it's worth checking ahead of time if you do shop somewhere regularly, to check and see if they have an app and if their app has coupons. Now, again, your data is currency, so there is a trade-off with, you know, if I give you my email address and I download your app, I get the coupons, but then you also have my email address, so you can send me, you know, things, advertisements and things like that. So there is a trade-off. So, okay, any other questions?
I don't see any other questions.
Yeah,
but
and
again, if you have any later, feel free to reach out.
We had someone mention that it's good to have a public account for those things. And yes, that is why I have a second email address. That is solely an email address I use that's linked to apps and companies that I shop at that can send, you know, so then they can send me their advertisements and stuff. And most of the time, I don't even bother to look past the subject heading on it unless it says something like, here's a deal that you're actually interested in. And I just delete them out. So yeah, so that is what I have. I have one that's solely dedicated to, it's the one I give to everything, where I know someone's going to have it and my trade-off is it's a free account. I check it occasionally and they can send me whatever they want.
All
and
right.
I don't know if I'm the only one who does that, but I certainly have been doing that for
probably
a while.
Not. Well, I know that a lot of emails now will filter out a lot of, like with Gmail, they'll have a regular inbox and then they'll have another inbox for like promotional stuff. So that's helpful in sort of sorting out those things from your inbox.
Now, the caveat also is once you start applying and giving an email address out, you may see an uptick in spam and fraudulent emails that are telling you, oh, your account needs to be verified, or oh, your account is locked until you do blah, blah. So just make sure if you get something from someone in your inbox, you're doing all the things you would normally do to vet the email as well. I know once I had a PayPal account, it was like zillions of PayPal emails that were not actually from PayPal telling me, you know, my account was locked or it was low on funds or it was this, that, and the next thing. So you do have to kind of have that that knowledge that you get from the education of knowing how to spot a suspicious email too. So, okay.
All right. I don't see any other questions.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming today. I really appreciate tuning in to learn some stuff about online shopping. Yay! And
now you're prepared for the holiday season.
Yes, and that is why we usually run. To be honest, that is why we usually run this class in November. It's because we know that it's a more of an increase that we see in the time when folks are shopping for stuff for others. So, all right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your afternoon.